Hello, this is a tarot reading for Cancer for the month of February for 2017. Thank you for joining. If you checked out the reading last month, thanks for returning. Welcome back. And if this is your first time, welcome. And please check out the introductory videos I have, which explain a little bit as to how I approach the art of tarot reading and what you can expect to get out of it and all kinds of things like that. But I'm going to get right into it today. Today, for your current situation, we have the Page of Swords, which means that you have possibly some new idea or new thought about what you might do. And you're very energetic right now about it. You very uninhibited, sort of, it's a free energy type thing. What's crossing you or what's influencing you is the Five of Coins, which is in some way a sense of poverty, or not having enough, or it could be not having enough knowledge. It could be not having enough intellectual power. Because what I see in your future is the King of Swords. And for some reason, seeing the Page of Swords and the King of Swords like that, it makes me feel as though, and being that the Five of Coins, the poverty inflicted in the Five of Coins is somewhat self-inflicted. So I feel like what's happening is that you're sort of at this stage of the Page of Swords, but you're trying to, you're getting a little too big for your britches. You're trying to think that you're the king, or you're trying to come up with a plan to get to this position of the King of Swords. That's where you want to be, but you're getting ahead of yourself a little bit, and your idea may be, it's sort of like a shortcut that you're not meant to uncover yet. You're still learning, you're still growing, so sit tight a little bit maybe, and take it easy. You don't have to figure everything out right now, and I see that what got you here is the Sun, which is radiance, abundance, but sort of a sense of being correct, of having a clear and simple vision of the world around you, less complex, it seems, than some people seem to think it is, which you feel gives you a sense of, of intellectual power. You feel like you've got a leg up on other people, but it's important for you to keep in mind that other people may only appear to not have a leg up on you, but often that's intentional. They're sort of projecting humility or things like that, and there are a lot of people around you every day who you wouldn't know are incredibly wise if you just open your ears and listen. The foundation of the situation is the Tower. And what this tells me is that you're learning a lesson in this process. So in other words, don't take this too seriously, this process, or whatever you think you've come across. Don't jump immediately into thinking that this is the sort of crux of everything, that this is the answer. This is only another step in the process. There will be, it doesn't matter how big this step feels, because I know I've felt some pretty big steps myself. I've had visions that felt like they were about to save the world, but then very quickly you run into complications and you see how the creative vision in and of itself is never enough. There's got to be a sort of conflux of wills and intentions and meaning for things to happen in a powerful way, right? So just a thought or a feeling by itself can't do anything. It has no power. It has to be integrated into who you are, and in that process it will be integrated into the reality around you. It'll be manifest, but just the thought itself, solely in your mind, doesn't do much. I don't want to say it doesn't do anything, but it doesn't do much. It influences you, but that's about it, and the Tower has this energy about it that what you're going through or what this process is, it's not the end-all be-all. This is sort of like you imagine a little kid playing with Legos and stacking the Legos up, and then at the end, what do? Raw! And crush it, and that's sort of, and you can see there's like tentacles and everything. The girl is falling down the tower, but look at the little bugs and butterflies protecting her, like holding her up from falling too fast, Um, this has, to me, a sort of playful energy about it, if you take it that way. If you're really seeing the situation as the sky is falling, well, then I'm sorry, that's unfortunate. Um, if you feel that you have to see it that way, I would ask yourself why. Why do you have to see it as such a bad thing? Is it going to contribute anything to your life to seeing it as a bad, serious thing? Now, we're not talking about doing something about it. Just because you don't see something as serious doesn't mean you have to in any way not do anything about it. But just take a mental self-check on how you are approaching the situation, and if things are as really bad as you think they are. It seems as though a lot of your desires here may be things that you really already have if you truly take time to sit back and think about it. Um, in your conscious mind, in your crowning thoughts, I have the Seven of Swords, and this suggests that your mind is on sort of like getting away with something, of being covert, of going unnoticed in your goals, or something like that. Perhaps you have decided to go a less than legal route to achieving your goals, or something like that. You think that you have a grand plan that justifies breaking the law in the short run to be able to achieve your goals, or something like that. And so that's what's really on your mind, and I think that that's what is causing this conundrum that you're in. Your idea requires you to be at odds or at conflict with systems which you rely on. And because of that, it's not going to have a ton of momentum. It's not going to have a ton of energy. So you may see some results from your idea, from your thought, but what you're really failing to take into consideration is the sort of balance of the situation, how everything will change if your idea is implemented, and that will make the benefits of such implementation not as apparent. So there's that. Your advice for the current situation is the Hermit. And that goes back to what I was saying about take some time for self-reflection. You, your situation here is something that you're imposing on yourself. So somebody, one of my favorite sayings is, anyone who goes to see a psychiatrist ought to have his head examined. And there's sort of truth on multiple levels there. And the idea is, if you go to someone like a doctor or a psychiatrist, psychologist, therapist, that type of person, you, by going to them, are defining yourself as someone who needs help. You see, you're defining yourself as someone who is broken. And why would, you don't need to do that necessarily, okay? So in Zen training, people wonder, like, if it's necessary for you to have a teacher or a guru or something like that. Well, the only way that anyone can really say or can answer that question is that if you think it's necessary, if you need one, then yes, it's necessary. If you don't need one, it's not. I mean, that's the nature of how Zen works. In reality, the people who are studying Zen are the ones who don't get it. The people who never study it in their life and don't even know about it, they're, in a way, operating by its terms. You see what I'm saying? But now, a lot of cultures who don't have this idea of polarized thinking in their psyche whatsoever, it's a little different. So America, for example, or the Western world, westernized culture, has this has this way of thinking about things as isolated, with figure and no background. So if that's not your common denominator, if your culture is conditioned to view things in terms of figure and background, like a lot of Eastern cultures are, then the revelations in these spiritual endeavors that we have, they don't seem to be quite as like groundbreaking or like world shattering, because you're already very close to that worldview just naturally, just operating naturally, not out of any sort of spirituality or anything. It's just sort of the way your mind works, the operating system that you're on. So that's how that happens. But in your current environment, I see the Six of Cups, which is fond memories and nostalgia. So this may be telling you to search for the opportunity in your environment to return to a more sort of childlike state, to have less responsibility rather than more. More responsibility is not always a good thing, I mean, it goes with power, it goes hand in hand with power, so people automatically assume more power is a good thing. But you come to a point where if you unlock certain abilities, uh, you're essentially taking the reins out of the hands of God, in a way. A better, maybe a more natural way of putting this would be like, think about your breath. You can consciously control your breath, right? But you can also take control of that process briefly and, focus on your breathing. Now imagine if one could do that with like all of their organs, like their heartbeat and things like that, would you want that ability? Would you want the ability to screw up your heart rate? You know what I mean? Like, it does a pretty good job of it by itself. So do you really, really want to be able to take control of that process yourself? Well, the answer to that might be yes and it might be no. It really depends on your personal thoughts, dreams, and desires and what you want. Do you want to climb Mount Everest? Well, if you want to do that, then it would probably be good for you to be able to consciously control your heart rate. So there's something to that. But if you desire to sit on the beach all the time, then it's probably just going to get you killed to explore a possibility like that. Who knows? But this is what I'm saying. Every pursuit in and of itself is not righteous. It's, why are you doing it? Is it getting you where you want to go? And that's what you have to ask yourself. And what we see for your fears card is the Ace of Wands, which at first doesn't seem very intuitive, right? Like, why would the Ace of Wands? The Ace of Wands is an extremely positive card, a spark of inspiration, a new creative endeavor, that type of thing. So how could this possibly be a negative thing? Well, I think that in this situation, what it's saying is that you're sort of clinging to a particular outcome here, and you think that there's really one way that you would like this to go. But in reality, there are always going to be possibilities for you to take a lesson from this and then move on and have a new creative opportunity. But you're sort of afraid of that outcome. You don't want this just to be a lesson. You want this to work out because the vision in your head looks really good. And that's understandable. Like, we all have these mountains that we want to climb. But people do die climbing mountains. That's important to keep in mind. That the mere desire to do something does not make that thing really good. And I would suggest, and why this hermit energy is here, is I think if you really take some time to sit down and think about your goals, your broad goals, like what you want to accomplish in life, you'll find that this idea doesn't necessarily coincide with them. Maybe you want to be like a CEO of a company or something. I don't know. But if you wanted to do that, it wouldn't be good to screw over a business or something like that, like at this juncture in time. It wouldn't be good to, cheat on your taxes if you want to be a politician, those types of things. So I'm getting the message that you should probably try to keep your face clean a little bit, and by doing that, new opportunities will come your way, For your overall message, I had the Five of Cups. And the Five of Cups it's got a little bit of a sadness to it, a little sad energy. You can see the figure is sitting there, like, looking at 3 cups in front of her, which are spilled and broken. And she's not looking at the 2 cups behind her, which are still upright. And so this is actually very similar to the Five of Coins. They're both fives. But look at these 2 cards here. And that's what's influencing you and your overall message, you know. And the message is pretty much the same. It's that your failure to take this in perspective, it's not... Sure, there's a loss here. There's a poverty or a discrepancy or something like that. But do you really need the whole version of what you seek? Do you need it to be exactly the way that you want it to be? Is your happiness really staked on a particular vision for the future? You know, I would suggest, if you take some time for self-reflection, that you'll find that it's not. That you'll be able to move through, and it doesn't have to be exactly how you want it, and everything will be fine, you know? And I think that's what the cards are speaking today. And if you take just some time to sit back and think and relax, everything will greatly clarify for you. You'll see this isn't such a big deal. You don't have to do this. You don't have to go through with all this pain that you think you're going to have to go through, and, like, not necessarily pain, but the possibility of pain, the possibility of screwing up your life, the risk, the fear, the danger, you know. Sometimes it's not worth it. Other times it is, you know. But anyway, very cool reading. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next month. Okay, bye-bye, Cancers.